Round one, fight!
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Beers of War podcast. We're doing episode 6 review of The Last of Us. As you see, Beer Ninja over there has a copy of the remastered edition for his PS4. And as always, I'm Matilda82. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Cool.
Happened in the second game.
Well, don't tell me, because you know what? Last night, I actually purchased the game online through Best Buy, and it's going to be here in a couple of days.
Oh, you still got... So you got it at regular retail?
I got it. No, I got it. Well, I got it on sale, man. It was like a $39.99 game, brand new, sealed for $9.99. All I had to do was pay for shipping. So I'm like, The Last of Us Part 2, I'm sold. So I bought that. And then at work, I got these credits where I can convert it into money and everything. And I bought another game for my PS5, which is Horizon Forbidden West. So I can't wait to play that game too. But I'm looking forward to it. If only I knew when the second season of The Last of Us would come out, I would probably hold off on playing The Last of Us 2 until that comes out. Because to be honest with you, I'm having such a good time watching the show while the game is still fresh in my head and everything,
Right.
to kind of draw out the comparisons and stuff. And honestly, it's quite an experience. I mean, I recommend anybody doing that.
The only issue you're going to run into is after the season ends and everybody starts talking about the second season, the spoilers are going to start coming out, because since they followed the game. Now, they may throw a curveball in season 2 and change what I've learned today. It's a possibility.
I mean, they already threw curveballs in the TV show. Like, take Frank and Bill, for example.
Right. I mean,
way opposite.
This one's pretty. If they were to change the direction on this one, it's pretty big. So I don't know how they're going to be able to pull that off.
Right.
But also, there is another infected type in there called the Rat King, and I guess you see him more towards the end of the second game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if he's more of like a leader, and he controls the bloaters and the creepers and the runners, or the clickers and the runners.
I know nothing about it. I mean, I know I've heard of the Rat King in the second game, but I have anything that comes up with The Last of Us in my feed, my thumb is just scrolling immediately up on the next thing.
What was I reading? I was reading about the episode. Oh, they were talking about the game. They were referring to the Game of Thrones Starbucks moment. Apparently, there was a commercial. What?
I think there were crew members in the background or something like that as well.
I don't know if it was crew members or somebody. It may have been, but I thought they said somebody left a coffee cup or something out.
In the Game of Thrones, there was, yes. It was a Starbucks cup of coffee. I think it was Bella Ramsey in there, because she was in Game of Thrones too.
Yeah, I think it might have been right around the same scene. But and so I was reading the comments on it, and there were some spoilers for the second game. So just stay away from the comments if you do read anything.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna definitely stay away from it now, because I'm excited. I really am excited to play it and everything, because honestly, when it came to The Last of Us Part 2, the only thing I ever really read about it was mixed emotions with fans, so it's either going to go one way or another. I think either way I'm going to like it, because I really enjoyed the story and everything. So and Shauna's actually in the living room right now watching it for the first time. She's like hooked and already on the fifth episode or something. So,
well, I mean, we got Morgan watching it last weekend. She watched it all the way through, so she watches it with It started out me and Brendan watching it, and then Misty, after we watched like 2 episodes or whatever, and then the third episode came out, or maybe the second episode, and Misty's like, "Thanks for waiting on everybody else." I was like, "I didn't know you wanted to watch." It's like, "Oh, I kind of paid attention to the first episode." So now Misty got involved, and then Morgan. So we look forward to it on Sunday nights.
That's pretty cool, man. Now you guys got something.
If Kevin hasn't watched it by the time we get down there, I think one of these days one of the days we should just get everybody together and binge watch it at Kevin's.
I think that'd be a really cool activity for us to do over there for the Beers of War. Absolutely.
Because I'll just log in with my HBO account, and we'll do it that way.
That'd be cool, man. Absolutely.
And then I might hit you up to borrow your first copy, and I'll play it while I'm over at Kevin's.
You're more than welcome to. Absolutely. It's the remaster. I think it's the remastered version. Yeah. It's the it originally came out on PS3 in 2003. I got the remastered version on PS4, so a little bit of an updated graphics, and they just had they just re-released it again for PS5, so I just couldn't justify myself paying $70 to get a copy of the game. So maybe on sale. That's about it. But yeah, absolutely.
I'm hearing that even games are starting to feel the effects of inflation. They're slowly. I think Breath of the Wild is going to be $70.
Yeah, I think that's
or the new Zelda. The new Zelda, the base game is going to be $69.99.
Mm-hmm.
So they're moving up from the $49, $59,
something like that. Yeah, they're just kind of getting on the same boat with everybody else and whatnot. Everything else in this world's going up. Why not video games, right?
Yep. What do you think of the episode on Sunday night, Tim?
If I had to say, it's probably the most different out of all the other episodes compared to the game. That's the first thing that comes to my mind after watching the episode and whatnot. I like the direction they're going and everything, because at this point, Joel has met up with his brother. You know, Tommy's in the picture now and everything. And we also have another character that's involved here. She was in the game too. I just can't for the life of me remember her name, but I know this actress. She's in True Blood. She played, I believe it was Tara from True Blood. I was pretty excited to see her in the show too and everything. And they kind of went with the direction of her being pregnant and whatnot. So that was different for me. Some of the other things I noticed throughout it was, you may have noticed Joel was grabbing his chest and whatnot. You know, some people think he was having heart attacks. Some people were thinking he was having anxiety attacks and whatnot. I didn't really see any of that in the game whatsoever. Matter of fact, up to the point where they're at, I guess I won't spoil it because you're going to play the game and everything, but you'll kind of see what I'm talking about later on down the road, how it varies from the episode to the game in that aspect.
So you mentioned that it varies a lot, quite a bit from the game. Between episode 6, which we just watched on Sunday night, and episode 3, which one had the biggest variance from the game to the show?
Kind of a hard assessment or to really say, because episode 3 was more about one character than anything else. That's where it is way different from the story from Bill, as a matter of fact. You know, Bill and Frank. You kind of get the hint in the game that they were partners in some way. He even mentions the word partner and whatnot. But in the game, if you're not careful and you're not paying attention, if you're not searching certain houses, you actually find... Man, I can't tell you. It's in the game. It's actually pretty good. Let's just say that Frank didn't really like him. I'll just say that. Whereas
you mentioned that in the other recording that they did not, at the end there, they did not get along too well.
Right. You kind of find out, you know. So, but and we all know what happens to Bill and Frank at the end of the episode and whatnot. In the game, that actually varies. Bill actually lived. So there's another variance. But as far as the other comparison to episode 6, I would probably say an overall scene about how it's playing out. I mean, it's still, you get the glimpses and the little Easter eggs and nods from the game and whatnot. Don't get me wrong. They're not too far off, but to me, it feels like it's a little bit of a different, more direction that they're going with, because now you're kind of going in phases here, you know, a couple of months down the road after everything has happened and whatnot. So, it's actually going to be pretty interesting to see the next episode, because if it is what I think it is, it's going to be more based off of the DLC of the game. And so, but not giving away too much, but to you or anything, but the DLC kind of explains Ellie's situation. So,
yeah, I think based off of what I'm seeing, I think it's the background on how she kind of came about in Fedra, going through Fedra schools, and then her when she found out when she got bit, and now we actually know that she actually had somebody else with her at that time. So, and you were mentioning about the Joel clutching his chest. I think part of what he's dealing with is, I think it's anxiety. It's more along the anxiety that He's gonna he knows in his heart that he's gonna get hurt. Something's gonna happen to Ellie, and he can't live with that. He has grown attached to her. I mean, we're 3 months past Kansas City, so that's 3 more months of them two being out surviving together and growing that bond. And now I think he doesn't want. He accepts her as his daughter now.
Mm-hmm.
He's still trying to put that front on to the world that she's still cargo to him. She's nothing important, but deep down inside, she reminds him of his daughter in ways. And I think he's afraid that everything that he's ever got attached to has died, and he doesn't want that to happen to her. So I think that's part of what's going on with him.
Yeah. I mean, in the movie or even in the game, this guy's gone through so much in the last 20 years. It started with him losing his daughter, when they weren't sick or anything like that. She got shot. I mean, and then moving on up, he's lost people along the way. And, obviously we lost Tess, of course. I mean, that was inevitable right there, so now I think you're kind of right in the sense that Joel looks at Ellie more as a daughter figure in the case, because his daughter and Ellie, not that much different from each other. I kind of get a little hints that they're kind of a little bit of the same people in a way. I mean, of course, Ellie being a little more vulgar than Joel's daughter and whatnot, but I mean, yeah, this man's just, and he lost, in the movie show, he lost Bill and Frank. I mean, you can tell at the end of that episode, which I just got done watching an hour ago again, it's starting to get to him. He, like, you wouldn't think he would over a Bill or anything like that. Granted, these two didn't really like each other even in the movie, but Bill respected Joel.
Right.
So there was kind of a mutual respect right there with one another. And so, now we're already caught up. He's met up with Tommy, and now you find that Tommy's going to be a dad and everything, like it's just adding up. It's just stacking up and everything. So, I mean, I'm very interested in seeing where this is, what direction it's going to go with at that point.
Yeah, Joel is at this point, 23, 24 years after this started. He's, like you mentioned in one of the previous recordings, he's battle hardened.
Mm-hmm.
Now now he's starting to feel a sense of peace and security, and he's starting to want to lose some of that battle hardness on him. But at the same time, he's afraid to let it down because he knows what can still happen at this point. It's
what kept him alive this whole time.
Yeah. And you mentioned talk about his daughter, Joel's daughter from episode 1. I was reading today talking about how his daughter didn't eat the pancakes for breakfast. She didn't eat the biscuits from the neighbors, and she didn't eat the cookies, and nobody ate those 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of throwing that out there, how just those little things changed the whole trajectory of the story. So
yeah. And it was just like you brought it the other day, because Shauna was watching the episode where, Bill meets Frank for the first time, and, he serves them food and everything, right? I think it was like chicken and potatoes or something like that. Well, then, at the end of the episode, I was like, look what he's serving. It was the same exact meal when they first met and whatnot. So I like those little tidbits that they kind of throw in there and everything. I think Neil Druckmann, standing behind his product and everything is doing justice to the series and whatnot, especially for new people coming in and watching it for the first time, like Shauna, for example. So she's hooked. So that just goes to say you don't actually have to play the game,
right,
in order to enjoy it.
So we get to the point where Joel and Ellie make it to Jackson, Wyoming, and Joel is reunited with his brother. Does it go more in detail in the game why those two split off? Why they kind of went their own separate ways?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of argue about it and everything. And then in the game, this isn't really given that way too much, but yeah, they are kind of arguing about it and whatnot, because to kind of put it plainly, Joel and Tommy, as they were going through this whole ordeal in the last 20 years or whatever, they kind of went their separate ways because of how things were going. Like I said, Joel's a battle hardened kind of guy right there. I mean, he's done some pretty sketchy stuff in his past and whatnot, and honestly, I could see them making a prequel of Joel, even a series, even and out of it and everything, and see how that came about and why they split up. Because Tommy used to be a Firefly, and then he disbanded from it and everything, and started his own life, with another another camp, another group, and whatnot. But yeah, you do kind of hear a little bit about it in the game and everything about what went on, why he left, and why they left and dispersed at that point. Because in the game, Joel kind of indicated that Tommy never wanted to see him again.
Yeah, and that's what we got from the show is they did not. It was a nice reunion, but it was kind of how I want to put it. They were both kind of hesitant. Because I think what happened in the past before they split is still, that trauma is still there.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. Maybe they will go off and do a prequel series that we follow Joel for the first throughout some of that 20-year period. So where exactly when you start the first game, where do you pick up at? Do you pick up 23 years later when they're first introduced to Ellie, or do you go back a little bit and play up to that point?
No, if I recall, no, you start off before it happens when, Joel's just getting home from work and everything, his daughter's in it and everything. So that's where it starts off. Like even from the first episode, pretty close, to it and everything. So that's
so you start off with them in Texas at the beginning,
mm-hmm.
his daughter dying, and then it kind of jumps to the part where they meet up with Ellie.
Sort of. I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's really how it is. I mean, you kind of get the gist. It kind of kicks off and starts, and then you just kind of dive into it at that point. You witness the shooting and everything. You witness Tommy and them and her all trying to get away and whatnot. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious about that because that's a big gap from 2003 or 2000 or whatever to 2023 or whenever
mm-hmm.
this takes place. Didn't know if maybe the game had a little bit more insight on what transpired over those years.
No, that's the thing. That's why I'm saying it would be perfect for a series for seeing what happened during those years before the events up to The Last of Us, because apparently, I mean, just listening to them talk and banter back and forth and everything, there was a lot of stuff going on. Especially like maybe even how him and Tess met, who Tommy had in his life back in those days, what camps they were at, and going after Federal soldiers and all that. Like, there's just a lot. I mean, you already know that they've been doing this for a while now. They know how to hide from people. They know how to go from one point to another. Ration. They've already been to different areas and different states and whatnot. So, I mean, it would make a great series at that point. But yeah, it just kind of dives in after that. After the whole, shooting with the daughter and whatnot, you kind of just pick up from there at that point in the game.
So let's transition back to episode 6. What do you think about the little old couple in the cabin out in the middle of nowhere?
Man, that's what I'm saying. It's like it starts off so different than from the game and everything. And I was like, I'm fine with it. I mean, I thought it was funny as hell and everything. It was a really good scene and whatnot. There was actually there was a scene somewhere in there, I think, about, because especially afterwards when she takes off with the hunting food and everything. Yeah. Like, none of that really kind of happens in the game at all. But it was a nice little fill-in, a nice little add-in that I noticed about it and everything. So I liked it. What about you?
Yeah, it was a nice little humorous bit, especially with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
I made him soup.
Made him soup. I was like, you know what? I called my wife in there, and I was like, you know what? That's probably you. I mean, thinking to myself, she'd welcome burglars offering a bowl of soup or something like that, But yeah, I thought it was funny. It was really funny just kind of watching that. I mean, it's kind of like hell breaking the ice because you're going to be getting into something very deep and whatnot. It's just basically that. Yeah.
So then after that scene, we get up and Joel and Ellie are walking and they get surrounded by the people of Jackson. And they have the dog does the test on the sniff test on Joel and Ellie. Question: Did Ellie's body, after months probably 6-7 months after being bitten, has her body actually been able to completely eliminate the fungus? Because it looks like, because that's a good question. Because in the earlier episodes, when you see her arm, you could still see like it was trying to trail into her body, but it was stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, has her body been able to completely defeat the fungus?
I honestly don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to see where they go with that in the show and whatnot. I don't remember it being like that in the game and whatnot. All I know is at the end, especially when they get to the destination that they meet at, it's a very intense situation. You know, it's not what you think it is, you know. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because I really want you to play the game and whatnot. But she's definitely important in that aspect, that she has to get there and whatnot, because she's been bitten. At this point, we're like 3 or 4 weeks into it. She's not changed. She's already been bitten once
Twice.
after that. Yeah. So
I'm still not 100% sure that if she got bitten in Boston inside the museum, or if it was the fungus in her arm was reacting to the fungus from the clicker.
I don't know. I think it was when they were in the museum at that point.
Well, that's where
that's where Tess got bit.
Because she looked at her after they got done, before they found out Tess got bit. She looked at her arm and she basically said, "I knew it was I knew it was going to be me." And you look at it, you see a little bit of blood.
Oh, it had to happen to one of us, I think, is what she said. Yeah.
But they really don't zoom in, so you can't really tell if it's teeth marks or not. And I'm just wondering if it's more along the lines, because the way, like, when they're laying on the ground and the fungus in the ground, the cordyceps in the ground reacts to the body laying there, and then when they have the tendrils coming out of the mouth and how it reacts. I'm wondering if it wasn't just more of her, that the virus or the fungus in her arm was trying to escape to communicate with the neighboring infected.
It's an interesting idea. It's not part of the game, though, but it's definitely an interesting idea. I mean, I could probably see them doing something like that. I mean, either way, I don't know how else they could do that, because Ellie's obviously going to be the main protagonist throughout the series as well, along with Joel and whatnot. So,
is there 2 games or 3 games?
There's 2 games right now. 2 games and a DLC. I don't know if there's a DLC for the second game or not, but the second game revolves more being around Ellie now at this point, you know. So that's why I'm really excited to see where the story's going to go and see if I can compare, because I'm not even sure how many episodes they're going to do of The Last of Us for the first season. I imagine it's getting ready to come to an end based off where they are.
Lately, a lot of these shows have only been doing 8 episodes.
Yeah. And
that's been pretty regular for Netflix, Amazon, HBO. 8 episodes is about what everybody does now.
They're going to want to get started on the second pretty soon, you know, because she's going to grow up. And, you know, Pedro Pascal, man, that guy is not losing gigs, man. That guy can get a job, you know. So they're going to have to do something soon when it comes to season 2. And that's why I'm saying I'm thinking maybe they're going to be making a season 2 here pretty soon, because I really want to see where the story goes, especially after how they left off on the first game. And I have a feeling how they left off in the first game, they're probably going to do the same thing in the TV series there.
So as we progress, we're at the point where they're basically surrounded by the writing party of Jackson. They finally realize that they're somewhat safe, so they take them into Jackson. Now we come up to the big. Joel meets his brother again. They catch up, finds out Joel's going to be an uncle, everything. But then it comes to the big scene where Joel wants to send Ellie off with his brother because he cannot bear to see something. Basically, it comes down to, it wasn't him being an asshole. It was him doing it because he could not deal with the fact that something happened to her.
I think so too. I think that's exactly where it is.
Is that the asshole part you were talking about in the game, or is there still another one?
No, I mean, I don't think they really showed it that much throughout the show and everything, because you just kind of get the idea that he's an asshole at first, especially when they got together and whatnot, because he doesn't consider her as a person. He considers her as basically luggage, or whatever you want to call it. Cargo. Thank you. Yeah. So, and then, you kind of find out a little more about his past. They get into some arguments and he says some pretty hateful things, and I was like, man, you're kind of an asshole here and whatnot. But I mean, you still can't help but love the character throughout the game and everything because of how he's evolving and how he's changing and how you can finally get him to crack a smile or something like that,
Well, I think if he would have made those comments to Ellie in, like, say, the second episode, we would have a different opinion of him versus where he is at now. We know by now he's starting to bond with her and he's becoming that father figure to her and he's taking her in as a daughter.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see that he doesn't want, like he said, everybody who's ever been around has died on him. And he doesn't want that to happen to her.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's part of the reason why he was trying to push her away. But as the night went on, he couldn't live with himself knowing that he was going to send her out on her own with his brother. Even though he trusts his brother 100%, it's like he said, he wanted to give her a choice versus him making that choice.
Yeah, and I think in the game, if I remember correctly, when they're at that base where they're at, I don't know how they're going to do it in the show, so hopefully I'm not giving away too much. But they end up, the idea was they were supposed to, Tommy was supposed to escort them on horseback to get them to a certain area because they still have another objective to go to. And it didn't seem like in the game Joel wanted to get rid of her, at least not that I can tell. But they end up getting attacked at the base and whatnot. And not too long afterwards, I guess Ellie caught wind of a conversation or whatever, and she ends up running away off the horse. So Joel and Tommy have to go out and find her at that point. So they're going after it because humans are the enemies at this point.
Is it she heard basically the conversation they had in like the shoe shop? Is that what it was?
Remind me again, how did it go in the shoe shop again? Remind me that.
Because she heard him outside the shoe shop.
Yeah.
When they
Tommy she heard it. Yeah.
I wonder, is that the same where she wanted to get away from him because she's also been in the same boat as Joel's been. Anybody she's ever been attached to has died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, we're going to find out about her best friend in the next episode.
Mm-hmm. So like in the game and everything, she's like really pissed off about it at that point. So she's just going to go do things on her own. And that's just when it leads in, it gets real interesting in the game too and whatnot. So Tommy kind of, he helps out the best he can and whatnot, but obviously he can't go with them, because he's got pretty much a whole camp to run and whatnot. So I don't know if they're going to do that in the series because the only reason why I have doubts is because of how this episode went, this most recent one. So we'll definitely see what happens. And I'm pretty sure, like you said, they're going to probably talk more about, her friend and whatnot, kind of because that story is going to be about the DLC. Because I played the DLC after the game and it was a really good DLC too. Really good story, well written. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how it's going to go on the screen and everything. So yeah, man.
So then after that point, Tommy or Joel and Ellie, Joel gives Ellie that choice and they're off to Colorado. It's Colorado State. So they make it down to the campus and find out it's all completely deserted. And then it was funny because you got the monkeys running around.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting a giant gorilla just come busting through running through or whatever.
No, I wasn't giant gorillas or not because I think was it like in the game. I think it happens. They end up going to Colorado, getting to the laboratory, and you do see a lot of monkeys over there and everything. But no, you don't see a gorilla. So you don't see that or anything like that. But it's going to be it was a pretty good scene on how they played it through and whatnot. I don't know how they're going to do it in the show, but I mean, at this point, it's anybody's ball game when it comes to it because The Last of Us show, it's staying pretty true to the source material and everything, but there are some, changes and turns right here in the comparisons between the video games and whatnot. And I don't know. I just want to see where they're going to go with it and everything. I want to see what's going to end up with Joel with his, I'm assuming they're anxiety attacks. Hopefully, I mean, shouldn't be heart attacks because no. Because in the game, something definitely happens to him different than what's going through with him right now. So
Yeah, because they finish up that episode, they get ambushed by the let's just say Raiders,
mhm.
and Joel ended up fighting one of them, and the guy had a wooden baseball bat and it breaks, and he uses the shiv to stab Joel in the side,
Mhm.
and then they flee, and then he basically, as they're getting away, he passes out and falls off the horse, and that's kind
Yeah.
of where they left us.
Okay, so basically it was very similar, and only he didn't get stabbed per se with a wooden shiv. It happened at the laboratories. He was fighting somebody, and they got knocked over on the second floor, and he landed on rebar. Bam.
Ooh.
And at that point, you know, so you're starting to come back to me now with the latest episode because you just brought that up, and it's like, okay, I can see where they were going with that and everything. That was actually pretty cool and whatnot, because at this point you're going to see Ellie starting to grow up a little bit more, because at this point Joel is in pretty bad condition.
Yeah, and then it kind of leaves there. She's like basically telling him she can't live without him and she needs him. And then the episode cuts, and then I wish I paid attention to it now, but I remember seeing it, the music that they played at the end of that episode.
I don't recall.
Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. It was
I'm gonna end up watching the episode again and everything, because I was pretty tipsy when I watched it the first time. So
yeah, because they were talking about who was the song, and it was kind of like a sad death song in a way.
like there's not a lot of them out there, is there?
See if I can pull
Because
it
in
up.
the TV show that you're playing Linda Ronstadt, and I want to say in the game, it was a country singer. I don't know if it was Hank Williams or what.
Okay, here we go. Pulling up an article from what website am I on? Mashable.com. Author, it's The Last of Us episode 6 features a heartbreaking musical callback. It was written by Balin Edwards. From Linda Ronstadt. It says, I'm taking a ride with my best friend. I hope he never lets me down again. He knows where he's taking me. Take me where I want to be. I'm taking a ride with my best friend. Sound familiar? It's because we heard the lyrics before from Joel and Ellie and Tess when they're leaving Boston QZ. From Depeche Mode's 1987 song, Never Let Me Down Again. So there you go. Kind of a throwback.
I think they're kind of trying to get on that same bandwagon that Stranger Things did, you know, with Kate Bush and the Metallica, you know, whatnot. I'm wondering, because a lot of the younger generation now is starting to discover that kind of music and everything, and it's becoming popular again. So I wonder if they're kind of trying to do the same thing.
Speaking of the Kate Bush song, a couple weeks ago, we were coming home in the car, and I'm channel surfing on the radio, and that song was on, and Morgan makes me put it back on there. So it's starting to, it's kind of funny because it's starting like the other day, what song was it we were listening to? Something came on, and my daughter's in the background singing it in the car, and I'm just like, okay, I can't change it. It's a good song, so I'm not going to change it.
Right.
But yeah, I'm glad that some of these kids are getting back into some of these older music, because there was an incident when Ozzy Osbourne did that song with Post Malone, and I kid you not, Tim, there was people all over Twitter like, I can't believe that Post Malone's giving this unknown artist Ozzy Osbourne a chance of playing him on a song. You had people that didn't even know who Ozzy Osbourne was.
That's horrible. That is horrible. Well, we're not raising our kids right. That ain't right. My boy knows who Ozzy Osbourne is, and I can tell you why he knows who Ozzy Osbourne is. Because we watched the Osbournes back when we lived in Arizona, and we actually went out to Hollywood, and we visited the front door of his house too, and he got sprayed by Ozzy's automatic spray cannons. So it was pretty cool. Even saw us the Hollywood Walk of Fame, the star thing. So yeah, come on, guys, I raise your kids up better than that, man. There's some really good music out there that they're missing out on.
Unfortunately, kids are not. There's a lot of kids nowadays who don't get out and try different types of music. They only listen to what their friends are listening to.
Pretty much nowadays, you know, they don't get out and get to go play and be like other kids, you know. And that's one of the things I like about The Last of Us too, because you know you're looking at Ellie's point of view. She's born into this whole thing, right? So like for her to be in a car, like that was a spaceship to her. She freaked out when she saw an airplane and everything, right? Because you know she's never been in the sky. She's jealous of Joel because of that and everything. So yeah, I mean, kids not discovering the music that we grew up listening to and whatnot. Well, Ellie's kind of like growing up looking at the things that we were all taking advantage of, you know. Well, we did and whatnot. So I don't know, maybe this be a good segue into it for the younger generation and everything. You know, when it comes to movies, music, games, that kind of stuff. So I like to see where that goes.
Yeah. I think that it does open up that world to more the kids, and I think it'll help expand on a lot of things too.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you would like to add from the episode from the other night?
Nope, just looking forward to the next one and everything. I can't wait. Looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to getting my game in the mail. I'll be playing it. See how that goes.
You gotta let me know when you play it.
Oh, 10-4. I'll post it up. You guys can check me out on Instagram. Bear Ninjas on Instagram. So yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I usually post some things up there, and trying to get my own little channel on YouTube going as well and everything. I started off, but haven't finished it. So I want to get gameplay. You know, I want to start taking pictures of the game and whatnot, because the PS5 is an amazing console, man. So I'm taking like a lot of video clips and all that good stuff and everything. I might even try to put a video up on it.
So, and if anybody wants to try to convince my wife to let me go ahead and buy a PS4 so I could play these games, just message her. You guys know most of you guys know how to get a hold of her. So
Venmo, GoFundMe, you know, let's do something.
Yeah.
Let's get Matilda a PS4 or 5 people.
So Tim, you got your shot on you?
As always.
And as always, thank you for listening to us. Thank you for listening to our review of episode 6 of The Last of Us. I'll come up with some cheesy dad joke name title for this episode at some point. Haven't thought of one. So, as always, if you drink,
may you drink with me.
Round 1, fight!